But
Can
before
I
we
just say
kick
something
off,
for the sake?
did he change his jersey again?
No, I'm just gonna say something here. For the last time, I am not Jamie fucking Coleman. Please,
Nobody said you were.
everyone on FiveMarks podcast, Weekly Controversies, everyone that's fucking DMing me, I am not Jamie Coleman. Do I look like I've got a full grown beard at the moment? Do I look like I have a fucking eye fetish? No, I fucking don't. Right? I'm not Jamie Coleman. Right? End of story. I am Jamie Coleman. Here for Weekly Controversies, and this is my intro. Yeah? And we are going to get into this week's episode.
Yes, we are back for on part 2 of our Road to WrestleMania series, and we are fantasy booking this week. And he's back with us. He changed his schedule. He told the manager, I'm not working tonight. Buffet is closed, and the Golden One is back with us. And we're joined once again by a frequent visitor at this point, Mr. Mark.
Always a pleasure, fellas.
He likes to show up. His other friend Aaron thinks he's too good for his own britches.
Says he'll be on next week.
Jamie.
Right. So this is the Q&A that we were supposed to do last week, but we never got the time. So there's a few questions. I actually asked a lot of people who were DMing me and all who kept calling me Jamie Coleman. But yeah, a few of them gave us some pretty good questions, right? So it's all related to do with wrestling. And the first one that
I really hope so.
I'm glad.
What?
I really hope so.
Oh yeah, there is, yeah. So
you know the name of the person that sent it in?
What?
You may as well tell us the name of the person that sent it in so we can talk to them directly.
Yeah, but and so the first one is from Shane McGurk, and his question is: do you think The Rock will turn on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania?
I do not. I think anyone that thinks The Rock is turning on Roman is deluded. The only person turning on anybody is Jay and Seth turning on Cody, and even Cody laying for that tribal chief to walk out victorious.
It's a big possibility, Tony, because they've been hinting out in the last few weeks of SmackDown too. The whole L thing. You know, a lot of people have noticed that when The Rock pulls up the one, he has the L. He has his thumb down with it. So
Let's start doing it as well when he mentions the bloodline.
No, that is true. But there could be a possibility of there could be even 2 turns. There could be even a Seth Rollins turn.
That's what I was thinking as well, because with them both doing it for both separate teams, both turn. So Seth turned on Cody, The Rock turned on Roman.
It's finally happened after 11 episodes. It's finally happened. We're all in agreement on something.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Mark, what do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, for me, Rock doesn't turn at Mania. I think Rock does turn, not at Mania though. Yeah, come on, you can't take the light away from Cody when inevitably Tony's in his tears when Cody lifts the title. There's nothing that will get in the way of that moment, that big babyface moment. And The Rock turning probably doesn't bring that. It doesn't happen there, I don't think. I've seen he's not scheduled to wrestle until the second Saudi show as well, with his new movie that he's
what is the next
filming.
film? I thought the next film out this year was the Fast film. That got pushed back to next year, apparently.
Yeah, he's got another one. I don't know what it's called, but I'm sure it'll be equally.
Jumanji 6.
No, it's one I've never heard of. It'll be unwatchable as they seem to have been recently, but he's doing his actual filming of it through the next few months. So
is that not the God of War film, is it, or something like that? Is it?
I don't actually. I can't remember what it's called. I can give it a quick Google, but yeah, for me, any comeback happens later, I think, and the turn happens later once the crowd has died down. I think the crowd needs to get this moment and really get this story done. I don't think he turns. I'm equally though interested because I think Rollins could. Maybe we're all in agreement with that. Does Drew somehow get involved in this whole big fiasco and Seth's pissed off? I don't know. Rock doesn't turn for me though.
Okay, that's a good one. Another question as well from Luke Woods, and it's actually about NXT. And he goes, "Who do you reckon will get a call up to the main roster from the NXT roster after WrestleMania?"
I would have to say hand and heart, Ilya Dragunov. Has to be.
Ilya.
Has to be.
Yeah.
He's been too good on NXT, and it's the same with Braun Breaker. Obviously, he's been another one who
Being
obviously
called up.
came up. Do you know what I mean? So obviously with Ilya Dragunov, I wouldn't even say it's too
So
early for him coming up, but I would bring him up. But because if you take away him though from NXT, I mean, what does that leave you with in the men's roster? You've got Camilo Hayes, who's a potential possibility to come up as well, and Trick Williams as well. But again, if you take away them from NXT, where and put them into the main roster, who else have you left in the men's roster? That's the only question.
so
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in hot here. If this person doesn't get called up after Mania, it's a fucking crime. Roxanne Perez, the prodigy. That woman needs to be on the main roster, mixing it up on the main roster with other talent, and be giving that talent fucking mic skill classes because she can cut a promo. I'm loving the heel prodigy right now.
Yeah.
Both good shouts. For me, let's think about the next pay-per-view, right? Backlash. Guys, where's that going to be
Paris,
based? Yeah, or Leon, right?
specifically Leon.
Uh-huh. And there's a particular wrestler on NXT who's, for some reason, rather over. Okay, it's a bit of a cop-out, but come on, surely they give Baron Corbin his moment in France, give the crowd what they want. Uh,
He's not even
he's
French.
he's not even French. I don't quite get the
I love
love.
Baron Corbin, but I think Baron Corbin is safe the next day at the moment.
Yeah, I
Push
just
him back
want
up, he gets lost in his shuffle again.
they gotta get him called up just for that.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm happy for Eliad to come up because that means Don Tony gets a spot at the head of the table in NXT.
Yeah, no, all very good shouts, but I think my favourite pick there that you have done, I'd say Ilya Dragunov is 100% ready for the main roster. I think
He has to
everyone else
feud with
there are
Walter if
great
he comes up.
shouts.
Sorry,
But
Gunther. He has to feud with Gunther if he's called up.
yeah, absolutely.
Run it back.
And so the next question is from Jordan, and he says, "How did you come across OTT and the rest of the Irish wrestling scene?"
But for me, I came across OTT because I've known a lot of wrestlers since they were young. So I've gone to all the shows that they used to do once every couple of months, MSW. And then they were talking of an over 18 show coming, then it came, and I went to the first show, and I was just hooked from the get go.
Yeah, I was the same. I think it was the first wrestling show I ever went to was an MSW one. It was Rocky Mack or something was the champion, and I remember Session Mob was Casa G. She was named, so I remember all
Yeah,
them. And it was in somewhere like fucking. It was the so like Springfield or something. It was somewhere near
it
around
was.
there.
It was in that GAA
Yeah,
ground around the
yeah,
back of Springfield.
yeah. So I remember there, and then of course the first OTT show was Scrappermania 3 when the Elite was there. So yeah, they were my first wrestling memories in Ireland anyway.
I think the first time I knew about OTT realistically was probably when I'd done a bit of training for Uprising School of Wrestling, which was about 6-7 years ago. And in the training ring, they actually had one of the ring aprons from OTT used as in their training ring. And when I seen that, I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And then obviously I started looking it up. What was it about? Where they'd done their shows and things like that, where and how often they were on. And then one thing, obviously,
I want to
COVID
get
hit.
back. I want to get fucking back.
Yeah.
Because you're not prepared to way to mention that promotion without using its fucking name now. Oh, Jesus Christ. Edit that whole answer.
But do you know what? Actually, I'm gonna actually ask Mark. Right? Have you ever been around like the UK independent scene, or is there any shows you've been to before?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was big on ICW when with Gradomania, right? That's my background. OTT's new to
Raiders, my
me.
G.
Yeah, I've heard of OTT through word of mouth. You guys, hopefully, gonna come to a show. See you
August
guys over
10th.
in Dublin.
August
August
10th,
10th.
Scrappermania 8. You want to get over to Dublin.
Gonna need to stick that in the diary. Any excuse to get over and see you guys. But for me, IC was huge back around sort of 2015, 2016. That
I
was
keep saying I'm going to
the
get to Fear Loud, and it never happens.
yeah. Well, the thing is, I saw Fear and Loathing. It was at the SECC at the time. This was the culmination of Grado's story. So he had for 2 years. I think what amazing piece of booking when he was jumping over the barricade and people were saying book Grado and he was a bit of a joke figure. And I followed that story from his like television program all the way to him going over Drew Galloway at the time with Mick Foley as the ref. That was an amazing show. Aaron and I went together, probably one of like the best nights out we've ever had. And I followed it for a little bit. Obviously, then Triple H ended up appearing at the garage once, which was really cool. Obviously, unplanned thing. Yeah, ICW, my jam. It's slightly changed in the last few years. I think the WWE seemed to just buy the UK independent scene, and it's been struggling to recover since. There's still a bit of a scene and a bit of an energy, but I feel like everyone just ends up jumping straight over to America much earlier than maybe they used to, which is a sign of the industry in general going in the right direction. But ICW for me.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, Mark. Next question is from Brian O'Connor, and he goes, how does it feel to be basking in the glory of the greatest OTT champion of all time in Trent Seven?
One begs to differ.
I want Tony to answer this question.
And that wasn't sent in by Trent Seven himself.
He's gone. Listen, I honestly don't know about this question because no, this is
right off.
No.
Who asked that question?
Brian O'Connor.
Brian O'Connor.
Yeah.
Now what happens to people that like Trent 7 here? Now what happens to people that like Trent 7? I send brown envelopes with hit lists, and people get got. You've just made the list.
Yes, he made the list. He stayed on the list. That's what happens, Brian O'Connor, when you try and get the Trent 7 Army into the Weekly Controversies podcast, but it doesn't happen.
Fucking Trent 7.
But listen, like this is just a question upon a question. Like, it's not gonna be memorable. Like, this is the thing about like this championship. It's not gonna be a memorable one for the simple fact of he won't do really much with it. So, do you think it'll even be considered a great run?
No. I think obviously storyline wise, it's.
Don't think they gave it to him for it to be a great run. They gave it to him because he did hate you get, because they wanted to make everyone jump more behind Barry, even though at the premise Barry's going to get fucked over by Sam and probably Jay, and Sam's going to take a spot. But still, I still think they're missing their chance to have Trent do videos and segments before he goes out onto whatever shows he's doing, saying, "Oh, look what I have! Look what I'm holding captive," and be a proper heel. Like, imagine Trent backstage at the TNA stuff in the background saying, "Oh, look, I bought the belt to an actual promotion, unlike someone." And Ford out of hate.
No, I know, but
he touched on it in that video package.
What?
He touched on it in the video package.
Did he?
Some of us, I can't help it if some of us are more famous than others and get booked outside of their local promotion.
Yeah, that's it. Next question is from Steph, and she goes, what import would you love to see booked in OTT?
There can only be one.
People. You could book.
There can only be one. Actually, no, sorry, there's two for me. There's a male talent and a female talent.
Right, go on.
And the female talent, someone's going to tell me it's a cop out. It's not. She was only booked once and was never brought back. And I think she should be brought back. But she takes in the bookings. Jordan Grace.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
The male pick is the walking weapon, Josh Alexander.
So two TNA guys you'd love to see an OTT.
I mean, we know TNA have a good working relationship. They did until they committed the greatest sin of all time. They may as well have crucified Christ for the second time.
Yeah, me personally, I've been banging on about Jay Malachi for months now, and he's really the one kid I love. And when he got signed by WWE, I was so happy for him. But he's one kid, like, I would have loved him to see in OTT, but I can't really say that now because of him going to NXT. So I don't know because I haven't really been following anybody. But when I look at the AEW roster in particular, you look at a lot of people that you'd love to see make an appearance and stuff and will actually have a great match. I think one that I really love is Ricky Starks. I think Ricky Starks would be amazing to see in OTT, to see how he'd be like as the heel, you know, and how reaction he'd get with the OTT crowd. I think he would actually pull them with strings, and even if it was against like a fan favorite like, you know, Barry or Jay, or if LJ came back, I think either way, them three
Jay's a
guys
tweener at
probably
the
have a
moment.
decent enough match with Ricky Starks. So I'd probably go with Ricky Starks.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. Somehow. This is
Have you
hard
any more
choice.
questions? Or has Rob not answered yet?
I haven't
No, Rob
answered yet.
Rob, I do apologize. Shoot away.
No problem. It's a tough one. I probably have to just go for one. Whether it's a possibility that could happen, because I never seen this person live on OTT, and that would have to be Jordan Devlin. Now I know it probably won't happen again, but never say never. But that would be one person I would love to see.
Sorry, Rob. Who did you say?
Sorry, JD McDonough. Sorry, JD McDonough.
Thank you. I don't want the cease and desist sent. Thank you for fixing that.
Sorry.
No, we don't mind cease and desists.
But
We can't come back from it.
Yeah. But actually, do you know what? Upon that question that Steph asked, she goes, "What OTT wrestler would you like to get signed to another promotion?" And I think we've kind of touched on that already. We said Robbie X, because he's an OTT wrestler.
Robbie X should be in the X division. He should be with TNA.
Yeah, we have stated that. I even said it to Robbie X himself in person. He should be signed by TNA. There's no doubt about that. But if I was to give one for the Irish wrestlers, I know it's going to probably be controversial. I'd say Scotty Davis. I think Scotty Davis is long overdue a promotion, you know, tapping him up and giving him a big opportunity, you know, because I know a lot of people are seeing LJ do great in Japan and JD's gone over to the States. But I think I really believe if, you know, I think even like the Japanese scene would be great for Scotty, you know, because
before COVID, Scotty was over in New Japan. He was in the dojos.
And I think if he went to a New Japan and everything and got an opportunity there, or even to a Noah, I think he would. It'd be sky's the limit for him, you know, because he can mix with a lot of brilliant wrestlers there, and then he could try and get his name out there in the States too, you know, with the American fans who watch, you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I'd go with Scotty Davis.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm going to go with someone that's completely overlooked and has been overlooked for nearly 10 years now, for over 10 years now. And in my estimation, is probably going to go down in history as one of the greatest to ever do it. And that man is Charlie fucking Sterling. The fact that that man is not signed is a fucking crime. Because that man has it all. He's a technical wrestler. He can fly. He can brawl. You throw out at him, he can do it. And he sells shit like nobody's business. The man can sell.
Definitely.
The man will do whatever you fuck with him and he will do it. He's literally, he can be the good guy, the bad guy, and make people turn on him back and forth like that. The fact that he's not signed to TNA, to an AEW, to a developmental contract is an absolute crime.
Yeah, hands down. Like I know, obviously he used to be on that. What was it? The show that they had on ITV a couple of years ago. Him and Adam teamed up on, and that. But yeah, he was always. He's every time I see him, he just seems to get better, and that, which is obviously it's not hard for him to do, but it just seems to get better every time you see him. But for me, someone who I would love to see, sort of, whether it's, I would say from an Irish perspective, someone who I would like to see do well outside of Ireland as such would probably be the King Slayer Jay. You know, for me, and it's someone who I wouldn't want to leave Irish wrestling, but someone who deserves that opportunity to actually, you know, to be able to be booked everywhere, you know, travel the world, you know, and, you know, get as much as what he can do out there, because he's the best. He's just, you know, he's just the best for me. He's just the best.
Yeah. And this is actually saving the best for last, right? And this is from Layla, who was a fan of the channel. She goes, "This is not a question, but a statement. Wrestling is the gayest sport." So what do you make of that question?
That was right straight to the point.
Yeah, straight to the point. Like Layla literally got straight to the point. And I don't know, like, That's what I got a lot as a kid. Not that it was like, oh, it's fake and stuff like that, but how can you watch a lot of grown men like be sweaty and like wrestling and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, like, mate, you can watch boxing and they mostly hug each other in boxing as well. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, when it comes to any physical sport, anybody can think anything like that. But anyway, that I don't even know how to even really answer that question. I needed someone to
It's
fucking
a
answer it
statement.
because it's
It's not
like,
a
how do you
question.
answer that fucking
You don't
question?
really answer statements, but I mean, we all got walk around saying big sweaty men slapping me. So I mean,
I mean,
our
the only
statement
person that
holds
loved
some
that
weight
was
to it.
Vince McMahon. Yeah, he loved his big fat sweaty men.
He also was steroids. He also liked underage women, and he also sold his daughter. And you know, Weekly Controversies. We may as well throw it out there. We stayed quiet on the topic for a couple of weeks.
Absolute sick man, honestly. He is the devil. He is the devil. But that's all the questions, and thanks to everyone who actually did ask the questions. We really, really
With
appreciate
statements
it.
like that, it makes you want to bring Layla on for an episode.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely will, and we'll probably even try and get some people in as guests and stuff if they want to join and get in their opinions on wrestling, even controversial opinions. But
We'll
we're gonna
even
get
try
right
and add a
among.
Q&A segment in every week because they seem to be really entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. But so Rob, we're gonna get into the fantasy booking segment now of this episode.
Yes.
Which is what this episode of Weekly Controversies is this week on our road to WrestleMania.
Indeed it is, and indeed it is. And as I say, so this to me, as I say, would be one match that I would love to see if we were to happen. Because obviously it's a fantasy booking match. So it's a tag team ladder match between the Rockers and the Hardy Boys.
Fuck. That is a really, really interesting match, that. Because you think about it, these are like, you're talking about in their prime. So can we actually get to the point actually with the fantasy booking? So are these guys in their prime?
So yeah, so at the prime of their careers, this is how I would kind of book it in their prime.
So I think that would be unbelievable, and especially because think about it, if you really look at the Rockers weren't even in that prime. They were young kids who were making it into WWE. Everybody got excited for Marty Jannetty and Sean, who were an exciting tag team, high flying, and they were like a tag team at the time. Nobody really saw much of, because there were so many different styles of tag teams, but you had the high flying tag team in them, and they were really a different side of the tag team division at WWF, who like a lot of people really loved. And then you had the Hardy Boys, who were Team Extreme, who really took high risks and done everything. And they were doing these things that were definitely never seen before, standing on top of ladders, going into like 3 tables and everything, and then having these absolute banger matches. Like, Rob, that is a brilliant suggestion, but I actually want to ask you, what would that match be for them 4 lads? Like, what would you say it be in terms of stories wise? How would they build it?
I think you could probably build it in a way that, there could be 2 new up and coming tag teams, and they're both wanting to be the best tag team that's in that sort of, in WWE or on that roster, and they want to prove to everyone and on the world on the biggest stage of them all in a ladder match, and that would be the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of that, Tony?
When you're picking these 2 teams, did you purposely pick them because half of each of these teams have addiction problems?
Oh, fuck.
I mean, I know our Weekly Controversies, Rob, but fuck's sake.
That's crazy.
So what's the prize going to be in another match? Is it going to be a bag of coke hanging out of the ceiling?
No, it's in a briefcase.
Maybe a bottle of Jack.
That's for myself.
Yeah.
No. In their prime, a tag match of those 2 teams could be off the charts.
Yeah, no, it would be. Any other matches, Rob?
So I've got a couple here, as I say, that would be one of my fantasy bookings. So an I Quit match, now, but a career-ending match for either one between Mick Foley and The Undertaker.
Mick Foley doesn't quit.
So that's and the thing. So what made me think of this one was so obviously Mick Foley. You've seen obviously against the Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, thrown off a cell, and then obviously you have obviously Mick Foley and I Quit matches where he doesn't quit, but The Rock makes him quit, and all that. But I think this one here could be a decent enough match, especially with the career on the line, and that how much would they give for this? And it would be an interesting watch as well to see which one of those two would have actually come out on top.
I do
Yeah.
love the idea, but my concerns are you've got two guys who just never ever quit. I quit aren't words that
Literally
the
that game.
Undertaker would say, and I quit is certainly not something Mick Foley would say. I struggle to see how it would finish. For me, love the idea of the match, but can you imagine instead of I quit, where you have to say those words, career versus career, last man standing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
both taking
Yeah.
huge bumps or whatever, and Foley always tries to get up, and really the Undertaker always sits up. So you've got to play on that as well. If he ends up sitting up out of nowhere after taking a massive bump, I don't know. Last man
I feel like
standing
Mick
just
Foley
seems,
wins that match.
yeah.
Mick Foley got tossed off a cell, got back up, walked into the ring and got kicked around again, got back up, got sent through the cell a second time through the ring, and still tried to get back up and finish the fight. This is a man that does not stay down. He doesn't know how to stay down.
That's
So
why you got to book it. Last man standing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely.
good.
But do you know what? This is fantasy booking. It's just for just WrestleMania. Like these are matches that we probably put in a WrestleMania because
the
I
list
have
I got
one.
off Rob
Yeah,
was a
because
list of
I
matches we're going to fantasy book to make better, but Rob has clearly gone off script from what he gave me.
no, I get you right. But tonight, no, and do you know what? I think I love this because I think it's like an improvisation, and I think the one thing that was top of my head, and it would have been amazing for the story they should have built at WrestleMania 35 when Roman came back. I think at WrestleMania 35 they should have never done Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. I think they should have done the Shield triple threat match that year, and I have a reason why. I've been saying it for years. I think there's a reason why I'm gonna go for this match because they had a lot of things that they could have built on. Well, we know Roman had leukemia and he had the Universal Championship, and he actually had to relinquish it because of that. And Dean Ambrose won the tag titles with Rollins that same night and turned heel. I think they should have had them mixed with Roman's return. Dean Ambrose still being a heel, but because I wouldn't have even had Dean Ambrose last match be on Raw and get put through a fucking table against Bobby Lashley. I would have had Dean Ambrose last match in WWE to be that triple threat against Roman and Seth. And I think that probably would have been an emotional roller coaster. Not just for the fact of that it was Roman's first match back, but that Dean Ambrose was leaving, that we were never ever going to see the Shield again. I would have had that being probably mid card, the same with the Roman and Drew McIntyre match. And it could have been a lot of animosity in terms of that how are these going to be a family again? How are these going to be back in the same page? These are going to be just against each other, and it's not going to be any other way. So the settle it is to basically beat the piss out of each other in a triple threat, because in triple threats anything can go. You can create that match in any particular way. You can have weapons, you can have storytelling, you can do everything like that. And I would have loved in a way a Roman Reigns getting put over to pin Dean Ambrose, but like at the end of Raw after Mania that year, I would have had it happen at Mania where the three of them are hugging and embracing and basically sending Dean Ambrose, to AEW, which happened that year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, could have seen something like that. Yeah, so it sounds good.
I mean, it's amazing we never got that main event at all. After all, everyone's gone in their separate ways. Pretty well, Ambrose and Moxley's now in AEW, so chances of us actually getting that slim. Yeah, that's kind of one that got away. One that actually slipped my mind as well. A good shout that would have no doubt had the crowd going.
As I played at wrestling, never say never.
Yeah.
And I think
does anyone have any fancy matches they have in mind?
King and Undertaker.
Yeah, Stone
Thing and
Lane.
Undertaker, yeah.
There's a match that we came close to getting, but of course, Paul Levesque's ego wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in a way, lads, right? Do you really think Sting and Undertaker would have happened at 32 if he never got injured?
I don't know.
I think
Possibly.
it would
I don't
have.
know.
I think the opportunity was there. Like Sting, I think in that current contract, I think it was only lasting for the year in part time anyway, because I think he was gonna do the last match at 32 and then go into the Hall of Fame the following year. But then he got injured, and then they just put him into the Hall of Fame then in 2016. So I actually believe that they were going to do Sting versus The Undertaker that year, and they would have probably had other plans. And that's why I even said to you last week about 32 when Mark talked about how it was just a tone deaf WrestleMania. That could have been the biggest WrestleMania, probably even better than 17. And I know that sounds
But it was.
crazy, but what with WrestleMania that year and what they could have had if there wasn't any injuries, it could have been an
I was going to say that was
unbelievable
played by
moment.
injuries that year, and that's what killed that mania.
Yeah.
Literally. But that
So
is a good film.
for me, that is definitely the shout, and I'm gonna do a how I would have booked on that Sting Triple H match, right? I had a thought about this beforehand as well, so slightly more prepared, and I'll steer us back towards the fantasy booking here. Everyone remembers how that match went. It became a WWE versus WCW, and you
Yeah.
had the NWO for some strange reason deciding to stick up for Sting when they
So I
never
wasn't the
ever
only one
did
that
it.
caught that they fucked up that as well.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for me
it's just
making me not crazy.
totally strange for anyone watching in the past. It just became a middle finger up to WCW yet
Yeah.
again. So what you do for me, having that match, I think you forget about DX completely. I think you play on the fact that Kevin Nash and Triple H are friends, and obviously Scott Hall. Okay, Hulk Hogan maybe not friends, but you still have the NWO appear. You have them take Sting out, and I appreciate a couple matches later we have another match on the card which is hampered by this, but no, who comes in to make the save and who stands tall? It's the Undertaker who takes the NWO out to allow Sting to go over Triple H. Taker and Sting stand tall. You don't do the turn then, but you have them as this like huge tag team almost. SummerSlam maybe comes, you could have a tag team match, or you could have, Hall and Triple H against Sting and The Undertaker, but ultimately you lead to that turn. You lead to that turn where, for me, I think heel Taker would have been quite fun. Don't know if anyone would have booed him. If you want to do two faces, that's also okay. But that would have happened the following year for me when Taker saves Sting from the NWO at WrestleMania 31. And WrestleMania 32, they have the blow off match. And it doesn't even need a big one. Doesn't need to be a big one. Just needs to happen. I mean, for goodness sake, just needs to happen.
Yeah, I think that whole match for me was a clusterfuck. Like it was like they didn't need the DX, they didn't need the NWO. It was the wrong NWO, it was the wrong color of NWO as well. And
It
the
was
historians knew we should have known that, but here we are. Um, Also, Sting should have won. I don't know what would have made sense for Sting to lose,
well, the
Yeah.
just because
storyline was all
WCW only
wrong.
wanted to give a finger.
That was it. The story was wrong. The build was wrong. We wanted to see the match. We wanted to see Sting and Triple H because the match actually was built okay until it started to end up more of a WCW's legacy versus WWE. If the Authority were heel and represented WWE, you can't have them suddenly be the de facto babyface and going over WCW the way they did and really just like shitting all over WCW and the legacy that they had with the NWO. Yeah, again, goes back to last week, pretty tone deaf, but you could solve it by having Taker stick up for Sting and yeah, create a little feud that brews off the back of a friendship between them first.
Yeah. No, that would have been a brilliant build to a possible match between them two. But then another match as well that I was thinking of that a lot of people have said that should have happened instead of a particular match in WrestleMania 18. And I'm gonna go with Stone Cold, Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan instead of The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. And people say that would have been a bigger match, but would have really been that big? than The Rock and Hulk Hogan?
In my opinion, no, because at the time you had Rock going into Hollywood, taking over Hollywood, coming back to WWE again, still doing matches there here and there, and for him to keep coming back and doing these matches every so often was always going to be a big deal for WWE, and to have two of the biggest icons in the sport in a main event, you're always going to want that. Would Austin have been great? Of course, he would have been great against Hogan. But would it have made sense in the angle that they were going? Probably not. But it still would have been a good way to go down, but not as good, I don't think, as The Rock versus Hogan.
Yeah.
Plus, there was nothing wrong with Rock and Hogan. As much as I love Stone Cold, there was nothing wrong with The Rock and Hogan. And I think if you're going to put Austin in there, I don't want to change the match completely, well then the only way to do that and still give the fans that moment where time stood still would have been to have Austin and Rock against Nash and Hogan.
Mm.
And
A
that would
big
have made
tag team
Hogan's
match.
form midway through the match all that much better when he gave the big boot to Nash.
Yeah. Another big match that is a missed opportunity is CM Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, and how great that would have been. Because I know people are saying that Stone Cold at the time when like CM Punk was prime in WWE, wasn't really fit to wrestle again. But I mean, he fought Kevin Owens. He got the bag for that match, and I think easily he could have got a big bag for a match against CM Punk potentially in one of the WrestleManias, because that match easily could have been WrestleMania worthy. Definitely main event. CM Punk has been going on about wanting the main event of WrestleMania for years now, and no better way to get that against arguably one of the Mount Rushmore, wrestlers in WWE in Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the promos, think about the promos that them two would have if it had happened. Like, it would have been legendary, would have been something that will remember for decades upon decades. And we had a little tease of it as well. I don't know if anyone remembers when Stone Cold was the host of Raw. They had a little tease of him and CM Punk, and I think it's one of them, as with Sting and The Undertaker, it's one of the biggest missed opportunities in WWE history between them two.
Two promo styles which clash completely, and it would be magic to watch them have a promo battle. You're right; they could sell that to you in one night easily.
And for me, it's been the dream match, Punk and Austin. You have the Texas Rattlesnake, the Redneck, the Beard Ringer against CM Punk, the Straight Edge, the Savior. The promos would have been fire. I mean, would the rest of it be in fire? Probably not. But the nearer it was wrestling Hogan and Rock, and that's the time everyone said that's the time stood still. So if you had got Austin and Punk in the 2010 era, that would have been their moment time stood still.
Yeah.
WrestleMania is the one card that doesn't need the highest quality of wrestling matches. Doesn't need the two wrestlers to have the best chemistry. It just needs the crowd behind it, the right build, and the atmosphere all aligning. And that's why, that match might have not been particularly well received, and a bell to bell showstopper by any means. But to be honest, they probably don't even need to lock horns. They don't even need to put a hand on each other for the crowd to be probably just as hot as they were for Hogan and Rock.
Yeah. And just based off that, actually, and obviously off the Austin and CM Punk thing, just sort of dawned on me too. Can you imagine Steve Austin against Bryan Danielson in a match? You think of even if they didn't even have too much of a build up, just being in the ring, you've got the what chance against the yeses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's all, and like literally that is all you need. And you think you've got a crowd going, what? Yes, what? Yes. That would sell me.
But so when you talk about bringing wrestlers like Daniel, Bryan and stuff, and Bryan Danielson, of course, and they do, and you think about you don't really need a match, of two brilliant wrestlers to have a brilliant, WrestleMania match. But when I think of like Bryan Danielson and all them brilliant wrestlers, I think about Eddie Guerrero, and there's so many fancy matches you're gonna have with him. Like, remember when I think it was apparently WrestleMania 22, it was supposed to be him and Shawn Michaels, and then of course like he passed away. But can you imagine what that build would have been like for Sean and Eddie. Like that would have been incredible. You've got someone who's the line cheating steel, who has banger matches every single time he's in the ring. Arguably one of the greatest Mexican wrestlers in history. Someone who I think he was like kind of a babyface, a heel. He was like an anti-hero at the time when he was with Batista, but he didn't have a direction and no better way. Like if Eddie never passed away, what better direction to WrestleMania than facing Mr. WrestleMania himself in Shawn Michaels? Like that match would have been incredible.
Oh yeah, like hands down would be probably one of the best matches in WrestleMania history.
Could have been better than Kurt Angle the year before as well. I think it could have been better than that match. And it's a shame when Eddie passed away with so many dream matches that he could have had. If he was still here today. Even with the up and coming wrestlers that you see now, and even like go back to CM Punk. I remember seeing the video of CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, and Eddie Guerrero in an independent scene match, and it was unbelievable. It was amazing. Like Punk was only a kid at the time up against these two veterans, and it was like incredible how he could mix with the both of them and how in sync he was every single time to the moves and stuff. And he choreographed that match to a T. And it was literally in front of probably 50 people as well in some sort of skill. And I'm like, man, that match should have been at least a WWE pay-per-view. Like, it's a shame that we never got to even see wrestlers like that even mixed with Eddie Guerrero. It's a shame, like, when you think about it now.
That's fine. Any more fantasy booking matches that you guys have maybe thought of off the top of your heads as well? I've got one more in mind at the minute there. Another triple threat match, but it's a tag team match. So again, in their prime, the Dudley Boys versus the Usos and Edge and Christian.
Like another ladder match, is it?
No, just a normal triple threat tag team match, but obviously for like the tag team titles might be on the line, that kind of thing, and that. But that type of match, because obviously you got the Usos, new blood, Edge and Christian in their prime would have been young Dudley Boys at their prime in the WWE. Would have been one of the teams to beat, and the Usos being in there as obviously being one of the longest tag team champions in WWE history. I thought this match could be quite a one that.
Do you know what? I know this might probably sound controversial, but I actually wouldn't even put Edge and Christian there. I'd probably
doesn't sound controversial because I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put Edge and Christian there. I think the Usos and the Dudley Boys would be a better match just for them. I think the chemistry they would have would be ecstatic. It'd be ecstatic. And you can definitely bring the ECW Dudley Boys. None of this story shit. Bring in the proper heel Dudley Boys against, babyface Usos, where you can still give them the same bloodline gimmick. It's just the fact of that they're baby faces who actually get along with the crowd. But I think some of the spots in that match would be unbelievable. Like I can imagine like a super kick from the both of them on the top of the ladder to like fucking Bubba Ray onto two tables. I can think of shit like that, and I can think about, probably Devon doing a 3D to Jimmy on the announce table where there's a table on top. There's so many different things that you could do with the match. Like it's crazy, because them two like wrestlers have styles that are similar but can do so many different things with, and
totally
I think that would be a better match than if you put Edge and Christian there. And that's no offense, Edge and Christian. I just think that if you didn't have the Hardy Boys there, I wouldn't want to see Edge and Christian in that match.
Yeah, they're not needed because for me as well, you throw in the finish, right? 3D, the same finish. So who does it
3D
better?
or a 1D?
1D, 3D. They'll all, well, both teams will probably get to do it. And who goes through more tables probably wins. You could have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, some of the spots there.
An Iron Man table match.
Table match.
Yeah, like how many tables can you put the opponent through? The most tables wins. It's just like a counter or something like that. That would be an exciting one. I do have one more that I could throw out.
I think I've one more myself.
You want to go first, Tony?
I will go forward and I'll give you more time to plot. So now Rob has a list he's dying for us to go through. So I was thinking about what Rob was saying, and I was thinking about what Jay was saying. And I went into my head and I made a fatal four-way. In my mind, with four of the best technically gifted wrestlers to ever grace a wrestling ring. Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart versus Chris Benoit.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That would be. Oh, can you
That would be
imagine that?
That would be a show stealer.
You'd have to have like a championship with that match, and that's being out straight. It's not. It shouldn't even be a normal match. It should be for the very best guys for a championship. You know, in the main event.
How about this? How about
I
this
don't think
then?
there's been a fatal four-way main event. Has there in WrestleMania?
2000.
Let's put the title.
Yeah.
Let's put a title
so
into the match
2000,
then.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's give Jamie the answer to his question. Let's put a title in the match. Let's give it a stipulation. As I said, they were four of the best technical wrestlers. They're also four of the best intercontinental champions. A fatal four-way submission match for the intercontinental championship.
Yeah. That actually would be. That'd be a mad match. You have to just
The ankle lock versus the sharpshooter versus the crossface versus the sharpshooter.
That's it. Like that is actually a really interesting stipulation to put in the submission match, because you don't know, because you really have to actually like. You could do even like probably three of them in one submission. You know what I mean? It's one of them sort of weird matches you could probably put like a really weird spot and everybody would probably pop for it.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen
like,
that in all of WWE before.
Yeah, because like I mean, you've seen positions where people have put in the sharpshooter and put maybe two people in or three people in, you know, in one submission type of thing. It's the same with the
top end is
crossface.
the sharpshooter and the bottom end is the crossface.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I think if we're gonna go fantasy and we're gonna go weird with this, I think this would be brilliant for UK fans too, and we've stated it before. But something like a British Bulldog versus a Drew McIntyre, I think that would be unbelievably hard hitting. It wouldn't even be like a wrestling match. I actually think it'd be like a hard hitting match. You wouldn't even have these two, you know, just doing spots, just absolutely punching
Make it a triple threat, Jamie.
What?
Make it a triple threat. Throw William Regal in there.
You could throw William Regal in there. Yeah, absolutely. Another fella who can definitely take a punch, you know. Sorry. You could definitely have him in there, you know. Definitely have three UK guys who are brawlers and definitely will take any punch from anybody, you know, no matter what size they are, you know. And they could definitely have that and really be a show stealer, you know, because the three, like, we never even really had that even before, I don't think. We never had, like, probably two UK guys who are loved going at each other. So no better way, or even a William Regal you could put in the mix, but no better way than probably putting the British Bulldog versus Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, because you haven't really seen too many, you know, like non-Americans going up against, you know, each other from the same country type of thing. Sometimes you might get a few Canadians, but that's normal because
probably like looking for example, Rob. But look at the triple threat last year with Sheamus, Drew, and Gunther. These three guys were amazing. Arguably the best match of the weekend, other than the tag team match in the main event on night one. That was probably the second best match, and that was a crazy match, crazy. And you probably look at it and go, "Oh, you don't expect that from them," but you do expect that, because they are three incredible wrestlers, and they're hard hitting, and the spots and the near falls, like they honestly had an unbelievably brilliant match, you know. And they're three non-US wrestlers too, so you can easily get in, you know, 2, 3, 4 American wrestlers, and they can absolutely put on a clinic in a big set of WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, big time. I think the test of that match was obviously, you know, sort of testament to what happened at Clash of the Castle the year before, whenever they put Sheamus against Gunther in that match, you know, sort of type of thing, and then to have that, you know, that standing ovation that Sheamus got at the end of that match, even though he didn't win, the ovation that he got, you know, still, you know, after the match. I mean, it was like it literally was a chalk fest for minutes in that match, and it was just so good to watch. And then seeing that added with Drew McIntyre the following year at WrestleMania, just added an extra level to that match.
But do you know what, even Rob, I'm just speaking about even Irish wrestlers, I am still disgusted to this day we never got Ronda versus Becky in a singles match. And they had to push Charlotte in there because they were building for them too. And clearly Vince thought it'd be brilliant for Charlotte to come in there. And probably for the match, yeah, it'd probably be a better quality match. But storyline wise, we were definitely robbed of that singles match between Becky and Ronda. And we know Ronda wasn't the best wrestler, but that's what Mark said. You don't need to have a brilliant wrestler to have a brilliant WrestleMania match. And them two would have really been all the brilliant story. You can give them 20-25 minutes and it would have been brilliant either way, but they just had to throw in Charlotte. And then, of course, then the rest is history with that.
Yeah, it's all about aura. WrestleMania,
True, yeah.
building that aura. The last one I want to book is taking us a little bit back, but it also takes us full circle because it's kind of to do with where we're going. The last match I would have booked is the slow build of the emergence of our main event superstar, the soon-to-be world champ himself, Cody Rhodes.
Fuck off,
And
man.
I do think that this was a WrestleMania match. Not many did, not many do. Everyone thinks everything happened for a reason, but you're telling me that you could not tell a story of Stardust's decline, of him trying so hard to become more like Goldust and just going into this crazy, odd character that we had back in 2014. He's desperate for a world title shot. He's not getting one. He's just going mad as Goldust to the point where even in storyline, Goldust slaps Stardust and shouts, "Cody!" Slaps him in the face. And you're telling me that moment you could not build to Stardust versus Goldust at WrestleMania, where Cody finally returns as a full-on heel and goes over his brother to eventually build him up to what we now see without any of the stuff of, having to go to AEW, build another company, build him up when you had him. There was a star there ready to be born. You could throw in Dusty, you could throw in anything you like. But that match for me, they really dropped the ball. It was a huge opportunity. And the fact they had them tag and lose to Ryback, I mean, fuck me. That takes me back as well. Yeah, dropped the ball massively. They could have easily taken Cody out of the Intercontinental ladder match and built up Cody versus Goldust.
Axel Mania running wild on everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
What are you going to say, Tony?
I said Goldust.
Oh, no, I didn't know what you said there.
Got you
I
all
literally did
speechless
this whole
there.
bit. I literally did this whole bit. I was all deaf.
Got you all speechless for that one.
Because nobody wants to see Goldust versus Stardust.
Goldust
deserves
today.
Goldust is a character that deserves the absolute best, not the bottom of the barrel, not Vince's bastard child that nobody wanted.
The story is that he gets Cody out of Stardust. He gets him so riled up that Cody is this.
He did get Cody out of Stardust. He got him fired.
Yeah, Cody is this heel as Stardust that it builds up, and perhaps even at like Elimination Chamber, Goldust is in an Intercontinental Championship match or something like that, and Cody comes back, not Stardust, and costs his brother. You pushed me this far, and they have that match, that blow off match with Dusty in the crowd, where Cody returns as Cody, which he wasn't allowed to do, returns as Cody and goes over his brother. It would be a big moment.
Do you know what? Another actual big match. I think that would have been amazing. And I know you talked about like the Stardust and the fucking thing, and even with the situation now with Cody, how Cody didn't win the big one last year, and now he's getting another opportunity. I think like something like a Booker T. Like I think when he didn't win against Triple H in 2003 at WrestleMania with WrestleMania 19. I thought it was a shambles. I thought it was an absolute shambles. I thought he should have won it that year. He was in great momentum. He was one of the most popular wrestlers in WWE at the time. Everybody loved to spin around. Everybody respected Booker T. And you know what? I know this probably be a controversial pick, but instead of Benoit, I would have probably had Booker T win the Royal Rumble that year. I'll probably go after the WWE champion, which I wouldn't have given to probably Eddie Guerrero if I'm booking this. I probably would have kept it on Brock, and then I would have had Booker T versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE championship, and then I would have had Booker T be the one to, send Brock packing to, the NFL, and then Booker T be the next big face of WWE, because he should have won the world title the year before, but he ends up winning the WWE title the year after.
But he didn't. He didn't, and he was never going to because of three very important letters.
And what are them letters?
Those three very important letters were WCW. Those lads that made the jump to WWE were never treated right. Were never given the push they deserved. I think Booker T only won the world title once in his run in the WWE.
I think it was not twice.
I think it was once. I think he's a six-time world heavyweight champion.
Hell. Yeah.
In
He
between
should have
that,
been
he
at
was
least
King
WWE
Booker.
champion at some stage.
He was King Booker. He was screwed out of an IC title in the Battle Royal because the referee fell.
Yeah. Like, it is criminal that he never won a WWE title, Booker T, especially in the early 2000s when everyone loved Booker T. He had great matches with Edge, Kurt Angle. The thing with Goldust, as you go back now with Goldust, is like he had great things. He tried everything in WWE and the fans loved him. For him not to be a WWE champion in that era before going to TNA is criminal, I think, because Booker T was definitely one of the most underrated wrestlers at the time.
I absolutely love that booking, Jamie. That's one I never expected, and possibly one I could not have thought of myself. 100% agree. That I've been racking my brain ever since getting the agenda sent. That how would I have done Goldberg and Lesnar? But for goodness sake, like that is it. Not do it at all. And why not put someone over who is over and who could carry your company? That as much as Booker was, to put him over Lesnar like that, give him the title, he deserved it. Yeah, that's an amazing shout.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Eddie Guerrero bet Brock in No Way Out and then had a great match against Kurt Angle, but they could have easily done a Booker T. They could have easily done that, because I wouldn't say they would have went down, because at the time they never did rematches at WrestleMania, where like they do kind of nowadays, where I wouldn't have even had Booker T go after Triple H. I would have had him go after Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar is going to be gone out of the company. You know what I mean? And he's going to be gone anyway. Like, I probably even would have kept Angle and Eddie Guerrero as a match, but a non-title match, and then I would have just had then, Brock Lesnar versus, Booker T, and Booker T like finally wins the big one where he should have done the year before. It's just one of them things you look at and go, that should have happened, but just never did.
Yeah, that's true. And does anyone else have any more fantasy booking matches before we get into talking about the worst possible matches from WrestleMania history? I do have one more, but if anyone else has any more, far away.
Rob, none of us have any more. It's back to you in the studio.
Back to me in the studio.
I love this fantasy booking that we did, though, because it's like we've had 3 different segments now. We're going to go into the this second segment. We should do that a lot. We should do like these improvised sort of fantasy things in our heads, because with wrestling, you can get a lot of things that you could go, oh, that should have happened.
Actually, I have a good one. I'm going to let Rob go first.
No problem.
Before we move on to a new segment.
Thanks very much. So this, for me, is a fatal 4-way, and it doesn't have to be for a title, but this would be one of my go-to matches. Would be Seth Rollins versus Shawn Michaels versus Dolph Ziggler / Nick Nemeth versus Eddie Guerrero.
That could have been. What about a Seth Rollins and Shawn Michaels? What about it was like a singles match?
Well, that on its own would be a high quality match. There's no question about that. But I always just like having the feeling of like having a fatal 4-way match, or even if you had the 2 single matches, you've got Seth Rollins against Shawn Michaels and Dolph against Eddie Guerrero, or you can mix and match, along the lines. But I always like finding out who's a better man when it comes to a fatal 4-way match, because everyone wants it.
That's it. Like, and Dolph Ziggler, one of the best selling wrestlers in fucking history.
It'd definitely be a technical wrestling masterclass.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? What
You wouldn't know where to look at that match. You'd be like all over the place. Your head would be on its swivel.
Yeah. Have you got one, Tony?
I've one more, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, this one could have been a match that made time stand still for eternity. Being accompanied to the ring by the Weasel, Bobby the Brain Heenan, the 7'4", 500-pound Andre the Giant takes on, being accompanied to the ring by Paul Heyman, the 7'2", 400-pound Giant, Big Show.
Jesus.
A battle of the Goliaths, father versus son. Yeah, that's right. I can keep kayfabe alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think sometimes
for
the only
For
thing
those years that I
Go
wonder
ahead.
why did Tony call Big Show Andre's son? Little known fact: when Big Show was first signed to WCW, they wanted to call him Son of Andre.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Really, not the Giant, Son of Andre.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's some news for me.
Yeah,
That is
I
a brilliant
remember.
one.
Yeah, because I remember reading that about that years
I-
ago.
I know it wouldn't be a wrestling masterclass, but you get some really cool spots. Plus, we get the best to ever do it in the golden era, the Brain, Bobby Heenan on the mic, having a promo off with the best to ever do it, period, Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
For the promos alone, that match would be worth it.
Yeah, even if the match lasts 5 minutes, the promos alone.
It'd be 5 minutes rest and 15 minutes from the standing at there.
Yeah.
Like, I was gonna actually say, how important do you reckon managers are for WrestleMania matches or even main events? Like, how important do you really think they are? Because I get wrestlers can sell their own matches, but when you've got managers, as you said, Bobby the Brain Heenan and Paul Heyman, that sell the matches for you and make it 10 times better. Like, how important are those managers for wrestlers like a Brock or an Andre, or even
Very.
a Big Show?
I For a Brock or for an Andre, for wrestlers that cannot speak really well, have good wrestling skills, they're vital because they give them a voice, and every wrestler needs a voice. That's why I find managers to be the most important aspect of wrestling, because someone needs to talk for those that can't. Mikey Whipwreck was a great wrestler, but could talk for shit. He was backed by the sinister minister, James Mitchell, who needs no introduction because that man can cut a promo any day of the week on anybody.
Yeah.
You had the likes of Andre and who else was in the Heenan family back then? It was Andre. It was
Was it Mr. Perfect?
Mr. Paper. Mr. Paper could talk, but you had a
Yeah.
few lads in that faction that couldn't talk that Heenan did the talking for.
See, for me, it doesn't always need to be someone that can't talk, because Mr. Perfect, he shouldn't talk. He's too perfect. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah,
can
his
play on his
aura,
gimmick.
you stay here.
Yeah, like get someone else to do his talking because he just doesn't need it. The way that Reigns uses him at the moment. For me, you have a manager for two reasons. One is to
He
sell, right?
yeah.
And you got to sell the pay-per-view. You got to sell the match. You got to get people invested. To that, you need someone who can talk, who can cut a promo, who can get you excited. And not all wrestlers are able to do that. Some do need the helping hand. That's maybe where the selling aspect of a manager comes in, and someone like Heyman, someone like Heenan, these guys are crucial. The other is heat. Someone that actually can get heat and take the heat, something that like Stephanie should have been doing for Triple H, but didn't because she never really got her comeuppance apart from getting shoved, I guess, by Ronda Rousey. But yeah, you got to have the aspect of someone who can sell and make you excited, and someone who can take the heat from the babyface at times as well. Most likely the babyface. Managers tend to always go for heels, right?
The most important thing is to build the character, the gimmick. Like if Yokozuna hadn't got Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna had to talk, you would very quickly find out that he's Samoan and in no way related to anyone in Japan.
Yeah,
Because
that helps. That
we've
helps.
all heard Big Rodney talk because we've seen his interviews and stuff. So we know if he had talked, we'd have been like, why does that lad sound like all the head drinkers? You know what I
They,
mean?
they, they could have
They're
made him
important
talk
for that kind of a speak. Like
stick an accent
when we
on.
had hit another one because Mr. Fuji was multiple managers, multiple gimmicks when he managed Kamala as Kinchi.
Yeah.
That was pivotal because they made out that that manager was the only person that could control Kamala and the only person that could talk for Kamala.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was going to actually go into one more. Do you know what? I think I'm going to leave it at this match, right? There's one more fantasy match, and I think, do you know what? I think it'd probably be bigger than a Rock versus Hulk Hogan, better than. I honestly think it would be today. If it happened today, both in that prime, you wouldn't know who would win. This match has just been on my mind when I'm hearing you talking, and I think it would actually be unbelievably brilliant how they could build this. And I'd go for the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus the Immortal Hulk Hogan. And I'm talking about the Immortal Hulk Hogan, who was at WrestleMania main events to God's grief and won every single time, except for probably when he lost to Ultimate Warrior. Can you imagine the build for that match and what they could do with them two? Because you think about it, right? Hulk Hogan had the Hulkamaniacs, the Eat Your Prayers, Eat Your Vitamins, Say Your Prayers, all this brilliant stuff. And every single time, every WrestleMania main event, he won. Even when he came out at WrestleMania 9 and just bet Yokozuna, he still got over. And you look at Roman now in the, PG era, and even before he became the Tribal Chief, main eventing every year, winning every year. The man just never lost in a main event of WrestleMania, other than Brock Lesnar. And he's looked at now as one of the greatest wrestlers to ever live. And if you can imagine them two with the build that they could have with like a Paul Heyman, who's we all know is like the greatest manager of all time, and you can think about what he could say to Hulk Hogan, going like he's gonna kill everything you ever built. I honestly think that match would be, for story wise, probably one of the best in WWE history. I think it would be just unbelievable, and to even have a Paul Heyman there, that would be just well, it wouldn't even be iconic. It'd be I don't know what it'd be. I'd be lost for words.
Yeah, it could easily equal the match between Hogan and Warrior at WrestleMania. To the point of Roman Reigns is kind of in that kind of build, and obviously Hulk Hogan in his prime would be in that build as well. But when you've got Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns, Hulk Hogan with no one, Paul Heyman taking down Hulk Hogan on the mic, Hulk Hogan giving it back, saying he's got the thousands of Hulkamaniacs going to be in attendance, blah blah blah, and then obviously Roman Reigns backs back with Paul Heyman again.
I mean, Hogan doesn't actually on his own because Hogan did have a manager when he started out in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan had a very good manager, and if you wanted to make it make sense and have someone that could bash the face as well as the heel bashing the face, then you just give Hogan his own manager back, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, you could have Jimmy Hart amongst it. Jimmy Hart's another great one as well. You could probably even put in that build, especially with Paul Heyman, because even then, you even think about what he said about Jimmy Hart, like fuck Jimmy Hart. Can you imagine that? Like, imagine saying that in like media, like back in the day. Oh fuck Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart was like loved in WWF back in the day. Absolutely loved. Vince McMahon loved him and all. Like, he was in every single episode of whatever it was, Superstars or whatever it was back in the day, and everybody knew of Jimmy Hart and the microphone. He was it was iconic back in those days. And imagine Paul Heyman said that back then, he'd get probably death threats because of how much he was loved. And that even looking at it now, if that was to be like a manager versus manager with Roman versus Hulk Hogan, like I mean that still builds it up. That still builds it up to be so iconic between even them two. They are two most iconic managers of all time, other than probably Bobby the Brain Heenan. going at each other, trying to represent both their wrestlers. Like, it'd just be mind blown. It'd be genuinely mind blown. But I really want to see that match now, but it's never ever gonna fucking happen. I actually want to see that match now that I said it.
It can happen, and it can happen on WWK 2K24.
I can dream. I can dream.
And on that note, Rob, back to you in the office or in the studio.
Back to me by satellite. We are here with, as I say, some worst matches from WrestleMania history. So I'm just going to run off a few, and I want your opinions on them, guys, if you've actually caught these matches yourself. So I'm going to kick things off with WrestleMania 27, Jerry the King Lawler versus Michael Cole.
Match had never happened. The match had never happened
ever. Yeah.
Like, it should never happen.
And the length of that match was like over 35 minutes long. Over 35 minutes long. And then an extra 4 to 5 minutes as well, because you had the end of the match. And then it was Stone Cold, and then Michael Cole got the win. So over 40 minutes. And entrances as well. Over 40 minutes. That whole thing was. And it was a complete waste of time. It was a general manager and a fucking laptop that said, oh no, because of interference, Michael Cole won. And Michael Cole's there just laughing with no teeth behind in front of Jack Swagger. And it's like, okay, how are we gonna send like these crowd not home happy, but how are we gonna make them happy? Oh, Stone Cold just gives everyone stunners. Booker T, everybody. You know what I mean? Like, complete waste of time. Should have never happened, what Tony said.
Lazy booking.
It was lazy booking. Like, Jerry Lawler was a very good wrestler. I think WrestleMania 27 was after the heart attack, wasn't it? The on-air heart attack that he had.
The heart attack was after that year.
Yeah.
After that.
Was after that year?
Yeah, because
So,
it's what turned Cole face. Weirdly. Really weirdly.
It would have made sense.
He was talking about it on live.
If I had to keep on the card, I had to make it better. I'd take Michael Cole out as a competitor. I'd have Michael Cole pick someone to stand in for him. Maybe even Jack Swagger could have stood in. It could have been Jack Swagger against Jerry Lawler, maybe.
I wouldn't have had Jerry Lawler wrestle. I genuinely would have
Jerry
had,
Lawler needs to find someone to stand in for him.
Yeah, I would have had Jerry Lawler pick a wrestler, Michael Cole pick a wrestler, and then boom. And then, like, you could have... Do you know what?
Because Jerry actually can't wrestle.
Going back to fantasy booking, right? I would have had Kurt Angle get released to his TNA contract, Jack Swagger versus Kurt Angle, and then boom, that should have happened at WrestleMania 27. There you go, there's fantasy booking again. Now, I know he was in TNA, but if he wasn't in TNA and stayed amongst WWE, that could have easily been a brilliant match that could have happened. That could have been a brilliant build, you know? Jerry Lawler, Kurt Angle's representing him, Jack Swagger representing Michael Cole.
They could have got an end of Kurt Angle for the night if they hadn't got ego problems.
He could. So wasn't that around WrestleMania 27 where like Sting and all was released? Or like from not released, but he never renewed his TNA contract around that same time. So he could have easily done something.
Possibly.
Yeah. Could. So are we finished on that match, or any more to that match?
But to answer your question, Rob, none of us would have it happen. We'd have scrapped it. We'd have scrapped that before scrapping the women's match.
Yeah. Very true. And so the next match that I have on the list here is one of the longest matches in WrestleMania history. WrestleMania 28, Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan.
This is the one I prepped for.
There was nothing wrong with that match. It was backed brilliant. That match was booked brilliantly.
No, can I be on serious notes though? But like, it's crazy that around that time, that's when the Yes movement started. That's when it all started.
Yeah,
and like,
hindsight's a wonderful thing.
In a way, I know Sheamus, you probably say, yeah, he should have been put over, but he should have had a match. He should have had a great start to the WrestleMania that year. But whose brain dead idea was to do that whole 30-second thing? Who was that brain dead coming?
I missed that match because of Sky Box Office. me thing started. I got the whole American the Beautiful, or whatever the fucking national anthem is, and then they came out, and as Sheamus was in the ring, and Daniel Bryan was turning to kiss AJ, the screen for hours went black. When it came back on, Sheamus is at the top of the ramp doing his thing with the belt. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
So my issue here is actually not the match, not the 18 seconds. Right? I think they should have and could have had a good match.
Yeah.
My issue is the idea of a main event, the idea of Sheamus winning the Rumble. For me, this gets scrapped, or the change I would make is the build, right? Sheamus winning the Rumble is fine, but I think it's a bit odd that the semi-main event, the eighth match in the card was Punk versus Jericho, the best in the world versus this new heel who says you stole my gimmick, basically. I would not have had Sheamus win the Rumble. I think Jericho returns, just after, well, but just before the Rumble. I think you delay Jericho's return for the Rumble, and I think Jericho just wins the Rumble, takes on Punk because he's furious about the whole best in the world thing. Jericho goes full on heel. They can still be the eighth match in the card because unfortunately you've got the main event, which isn't going to be knocked off. So Punk doesn't quite get that moment, but at least it elevates the Royal Rumble winner rather than having them go on first for 18 seconds. Then at that point, to be honest, you could do anything with Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, like anything except for that, and you would have had a better match. So I am booking this any like better. I'm just saying you have a match and maybe cut some time in some other things, such as Team Johnny versus Team Teddy, which was 10 minutes. Cut some time off it. That wouldn't have been the worst thing.
Am I correct in saying, was Drew McIntyre a part of one of them teams? I could
He
be
was
wrong.
Team Johnny.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah.
He was Team Johnny. So, yeah, you can really lower the time for a lot of these other matches. I mean, even then, that's the same WrestleMania where you got Kane going over Orton, which was just a throwaway match to get both of them on the card. Let's scrap that match and give Sheamus and Daniel Bryan a good
It
10
shows you
minutes
how
to go
much
at it.
how little they cared about the world heavyweight title. That John Laurinaitis is higher up the card than their world champion.
Yeah, it sucked. It was brutal, but you gotta give Jericho the Royal Rumble win that year as a surprise, not Sheamus. And then just give them a generic decent match. Maybe have Sheamus win the Chamber or something like that to get into the match. Just it was an odd build. It seemed again like they didn't care at all. Lazy booking, just throw it out there, bang. But in hindsight, Jamie, like you say, where would we be in 2 years' time? Probably not the same place we got had it not been for that moment.
Yeah, but they
that
were
is
going to
true.
give us Sheamus and Daniel Bryan a 30 only for people wanted Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of started all off, didn't it? It did really start it off.
It
That whole he's been
into motion.
underappreciated. So you do look at if had Daniel Bryan have a match at that year's Mania and lose, I don't think even they could have probably had an underappreciated way of seeing things, but they would have been like at least he had a decent match at WrestleMania's fourth Mania. But then, as what Mark said, we would have never had what we had in WrestleMania 30, like ever. So in a way, there was the bad, but it was mostly good. So it's definitely down in history. That's absolutely down in history.
Yeah, that's true indeed. So another match, as I say, that's on the list as such, is one that we've actually kind of sort of lightly discussed about, was the match at WrestleMania 31 between Triple H and Sting. I honestly think this match could have been a hell of a lot better, or even just keep it 1-on-1 and have no involvement. But I just wanted to see your guys what your opinions were of that match as well. I know we just briefly talked about it earlier, but what are your thoughts on that match?
I'd have kept it 1-on-1, and Sting would definitely have went over.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. Sorry, back in a sec.
I had used it, like I said, not to rehash what I said earlier. Scroll back, guys. Rewind to me rebooking that match. But yeah, I've taken Undertaker and Bray Wyatt off the card. I've had Undertaker show up to save Sting from the NWO. And I've just had it far more build, Sting goes over, no issues with that. But it builds to the future. Sting and Undertaker the following Mania for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, as I say, I've seen the match a couple of times and that, and like it was just like as we've said before, it was just basically WWE screwing WCW, and that's basically all it was. But I definitely would have had Sting put over in the match for sure. I mean, it was all built as if Sting was going to be the one to go to win it and as such, like. But whenever you had the involvement of the NWO and then DX come out and stuff, yes, it might have been a good wee moment to have DX and NWO there at the same time, but you still to me, you still wanted Sting to be out there. And as Mark said there, if you had had, the Undertaker, show up and even be in the ring to help out Sting, and then two are just standing in the middle of the ring, and it could lead to speculation of a match to whether it's going to be later that year between the two of them or at another WrestleMania down the line. But we didn't even get that.
No, it is. It's a shame. But as well, even I was just gonna say, they could have easily done a way better match than they did. They could have easily built that way better. I know the whole NWO and DX thing was a great thing that everyone remembers from that match, but just it did. If that was all it was, and I think they even knew that themselves. They knew that the way they did it wasn't gonna be great, so they just threw in there for the fact of that just I don't know. It's just I just think that the way they had these matches built, for two guys who weren't in that prime, why are are they doing it in that way? Like they should have had someone who was new up and coming against Sting. You know what I mean? Not someone like Triple fucking H. Do you know what I mean? They could have easily debuted Sting any other way other than Survivor Series, but they didn't. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, like you think the opportunities that they could have had someone going up against Sting, or even if I think it just goes to what way you would have kind of debuted Sting as such, because obviously they had this whole thing where it was going to be. You kind of knew it was going to be Sting against Triple H in that sense because of the whole debut, the whole, Triple H trying to screw Sting out and things like that. You kind of knew something was going to happen there. But if you were to re-debut Sting, would you do it differently to the way he was done in WWE?
probably, I think I would have, because it's like they knew what they were going to do with Triple H. They weren't going to go any other direction, especially with the creatives that they did then with the whole WCW WWE. There's no other way. They could have easily have had him and Bray. I know they had Bray and Undertaker, and that was great, but they could have had him and Bray. They could have had Sting get put over and have this great match where it's two of these different figure characters who are so different, they're similar but very different kind of way. You could definitely do something with that, but they never did, and they had plethora of opportunities to go down a different direction. They just went down the WCW and WWE direction.
What if we make the match make sense for starters? And I think of a way to fix that problem. When Sting came in to stop Triple H having power, help Dolph, put it to the Authority. That started the road to Sting and Triple H.
Mm.
Then we roll down into Mania and you have matches just copy and pasted everywhere. Like Mark said, why was Taker and Bray matches in that card? It didn't make sense because Bray wasn't getting out of it. Bray should have been off chasing a world title at that particular Mania, I believe, or being in a title picture match. So what I would have done was I'd have scrapped Undertaker and Bray. I'd have booked Bray somewhere else. I'd have scrapped Orton and Seth.
Okay.
And I'd have made the match make sense. It would have been Seth. It would have been Triple H. And it would have been Orton against Sting, Taker, and Dolph.
Why Dolph? I don't get. I get Dolph.
Because Dolph was part of the storyline the whole way through and was left over the Mania.
Yeah.
Dolph was the person that put Triple H on the shelf. He made the winning pinfall to get rid of the Authority. Dolph kickstarted the whole storyline.
Yeah.
And then once Sting
Survivor
was
Series.
bought into it, he was just fucked to the side. Everyone forgot about Dolph.
Yeah, he was the Iron Man in Survivor Series. It was a massive moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose storyline wise, you're right. Definitely they could have done a 6-man tag. And they still could have had they actually still could have had the heist of the century as well. True. They still could have even had that. that won't be changed. But in a way, it's like you just put in a.
And we still could have had the RKO scene around the world.
Yeah.
Because both men would have still been in the same match.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
true.
Nothing would have changed that side of things.
No. And then Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins could have been again like a kind of part of that match 1-on-1, and they still could have probably put on a brilliant show, as they did in Survivor Series with them. Because like I still remember that, even I don't know if you do, but I remember the reversals from them two at the end of that Survivor Series match, and it was fucking perfect. It was just perfect. You never see that really much in WWE anymore. You don't see like reversal upon reversal upon reversal, but that just kept happening with Seth and Ziggler, and it's just the chemistry they had. But that brief, like 10-15 minutes was just incredible. Probably the best 10-15 minutes I've seen in a like Survivor Series match in my life. It was great.
Indeed it was. Another WrestleMania match, which was one of the worst ones. And I think many fans have agreed over the years it's been one of the worst WrestleMania matches, is WrestleMania 20. We did touch on it about it. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar with Stone Cold Steve Austin as a special guest referee.
Do you know what ruined that match? Was the fact that both of them were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only imagine if they both got signed to new deals, even if it was just for the year. If Brock just thought, no, I'll stick for the year. Paul Heyman get into his ear and say, listen, you are like one of the biggest like names in the company. You are money. You will make a lot of money here. If you could stay one more year, give it another chance. You never know what it could have been. And in a way, we probably have never seen that UFC one that he had if he did stay in WWE. But then if you look at Goldberg only had a year in WWE, and he didn't really do anything memorable other than probably The Rock and the Elimination Chamber performance. I think other than that, he didn't have anything memorable. But I think that could have been an epic match if only them two never they never said it, but they never was afraid to know like we're leaving the company, like fuck everybody. So the fans then turned on the match, and then that's why the match was awful. So that's why they had to throw
And
the stone.
again, when that happened, and WWE knew shit was going to hit the fan and the match was going to get pissed on, rather than scrap it and give two other people a shot, what do? They bring in their savior, the man that always tells me of a sticky situation, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and made him the special guest referee.
Yeah, and he's done that so
Why?
many times in WWE.
Probably could stun at one person, stun at the other person, write his ATB off, and think the fans are going to leave happy.
Mm. Yeah. But you're lucky as well with the way they went with that Mania, that everyone was still happy. But that is definitely like, just as match quality was awful. Yeah. I watched it back a few years ago, and I just didn't watch it. I think I ended up skipping it.
It's like 10, 15 minutes of absolute cringe.
Yeah, it literally is like, and you look at what they did in Survivor Series, and you're looking at it going, the way they booked in Survivor Series was fucking epic, with Goldberg coming back and beating Brock the way he did. Like, it was fucking epic. Like, Paul Heyman was right. That was the only way they could have done that match. They definitely could have even done that, when they both left, but they didn't. Do you know what I mean? They ended up just wasting everybody's time and thinking they can have a wrestling match. Even though, especially with them two guys, you can't have them going over 10 minutes. It should be just two guys putting finishes at each other, 1, 2, 3, that's it. And then have a winner. You shouldn't build a story. It should be just two good lawyers going at each other, and then just have a finish galore.
Yeah, I think
it should have kicked off the bleeding shows. He could have just got it out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's one of those matches there too. Like, obviously, if it had been in their earlier part of their career, type of thing, it would have been a better match. For quality.
I
of
think
the match.
Brock was still in his prime though. That's not it. See, I debunked that excuse every time someone gives it to me, because Brock was in his prime. Goldberg could still lift lads twice his weight and not drop them. Both men were still heavily in their prime. They just didn't want to be there, and it showed in the wrestling.
Yeah,
that's true.
It wasn't a good idea to have them wrestle. The way they did Goldberg and Brock from 2016 Survivor Series to WrestleMania 2017 was perfect. I think that was what they should have done in the first place.
Yeah,
but you never did.
No, they just kind of just went bit longer, probably too longer than, and then even like the way you could see how lazy it was, even like as Tony said, it showed in the way they were wrestling. They just didn't really want to be there, and the crowd could have that feeling, in the stadium as well, that they didn't, even they probably didn't even want to be there
The
watching it.
crowd pissed on the match.
But not
It was
even only
15
that though,
minutes
Rob,
of
as well.
abuse.
Yeah, but not even only that though. You look at like if Brock Lesnar did just stay for another year and then got put the belt back on him against a Goldberg, like even like a World Heavyweight Championship. Let's say, for example, Goldberg still won at WrestleMania 20. Both got drafted to the same roster. Let's say for a Raw, so they got put on Raw for the World Heavyweight Championship, right? And then let's say Goldberg bet Batista, or not even Batista. Let's say he bet Triple H, right? And then he won the World Heavyweight Championship. Then that gives an opportunity then for Brock Lesnar then to like get the revenge, and then he ends up winning the World Heavyweight Championship. So then he's the biggest fucking face then on Raw. They still could, if like they could have done so many things if they both signed, but they just didn't, and it's just a fucking it's just what could have been?
It's a big what if.
Yeah, it's a big what if.
It's a big what if.
That's what Brock Lesnar said in the promo when he first came back in 2012. Like, he basically came back to a WWE like full of pussies, and he felt like John Cena was a pussy and Randy Orton were pussies and everyone was pussies. And he's like, you know what? Like, I'm coming back to a completely different WWE. Can you imagine if he was in that sort of peak of the Ruthless Aggression era and he was amongst the Edges, the John Cenas, and everything like that? They could have had some banger matches, and like this was Brock Lesnar as well, who wasn't taking steroids, because you think about it, when he was in UFC, he was taking steroids galore. Dana White knew it, absolutely. Dana White knew it, and he knew he wasn't going to get anywhere unless he took the steroids. So like with WWE, he didn't need that. He was already naturally gifted as it was. He was perfect for the WWE, so he should have just stayed there and just should have been like the biggest name in sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's laziness again. They knew they fucked up, so they threw Austin in and ended up just making the crowd happy with the stunners. It's like, it seems to be the nuclear option. Oh, we fucked up. Bring in Steve Austin. Same way with even Umaga and Lashley a few years later. Just have
Seems
Austin
to
there
be the
just in
ongoing
case.
team. Lazy booking.
Just in case we fucked up. So
We should just call this episode Weekly Controversies Gets Lazy, because it's been the ongoing theme of all the conversations tonight. But
yeah.
what's next on your list of absolute clusterfucks, Rob?
So on the next list of clusterfucks, so as I say, now this is more of a moment that I had hurt my mouth, should I say, was the match between Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle for the undisputed WWE Championship at WrestleMania in the main event, when Brock Lesnar attempted the shooting star press, which would have won the match anyway, and we know the rest.
So, I'm going to assume before I talk, everyone has seen the interviews after the fact, of where they both Angle and Brock were like, he practiced the move before we went out, he landed it multiple times. We've all seen the interviews. I would have just Brock Lesnar, as we knew him, was not a high player. Didn't go to the top rope. I know down in OVW he did when he was doing his stuff in OVW, he went to the top. But he didn't do it in his run. He should have went to the top rope. He should have just F5, 1, 2, 3, left. Had his win. He hit the third F5, went to the top rope, and he just didn't get enough elevation. Came right. I think he broke his neck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he broke up.
And I think he might have fractured Angle's arm landing on him, if I'm not mistaken, because both of them are just doing backstage segments after that for weeks. Yeah. Which, listen, there's some of the best segments we've got now about them. It was comedy gold. But the only thing that I would do in that match to give it its half a star that I'm taking away, only giving it giving it 4.5 stars, is not have Brock go to the top rope.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the match itself was brilliant. Like, you know what I mean? Like up until that moment. If that hadn't happened, you would have been talking about another great match.
But that's it. But you know what though? I think it's unfair though. I think to put this in the category of worst matches for that spot, because I get why, sorry, on my back, sorry, yeah. So I wouldn't have put it there for the fact that it was one bad spot. He tried it out. Even if you remember when he tried to do it, he was in a far away position. You know, Kurt Angle was literally nearly at the other side of the ring when he tried to do it. So Brock could have easily pulled him back, and then he could have made a brilliant shooting star press, but he never did and took the risk in doing it. But I just think that it was just one bad move that nearly crippled Brock Lesnar, and he did get a brilliant win against Kurt Angle. But I just think the match though was still decent enough.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think with the
I
match
tell you
they
one
had
thing,
at
though.
SmackDown. Sorry.
I tell you one thing though, we all might have had our hearts in our mouths and we might have been hoping he was okay. I know one man that was laughing his ass off backstage that night. Hardcore Holly.
Yeah.
He was probably backstage like, now you know how it feels, you prick.
Literally. That's it. But yeah, but if they had the match that they had at SmackDown at WrestleMania, then you would be probably saying, yeah, 5-star classic, unbelievable, one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. And it does, didn't it? But it wasn't like the worst match. It was probably one of the worst spots.
Literally,
yeah.
It's literally living proof that if it's not broke, don't fucking fix it.
Yeah, indeed.
Mark, have you want to add to that?
I don't know. For me, it's I hate the moment because it's obviously a
You hate
brutal.
Kurt Angle? Fuck you, Mark.
No, I hate the moment of him breaking his neck. It's not a nice moment, but it's iconic.
It's not. No, it's a horrible moment.
It's iconic.
He couldn't even celebrate the win properly. Like, it was that's how bad the moment was.
He didn't know where he was. He genuinely didn't know where he was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's brutal. I think how I would have booked it, I don't know. What would I have done differently? Again, hit the fucking move. Imagine if he did hit it and it was done right. We'd be talking about it like that moment, like when
Probably
the
would have
ring
made the 40
breaks.
years of WrestleMania. Oh, well, it wouldn't look as he's being blacklisted currently.
Well, when the ring breaks, when he suplexes Big Show, for example, like we'd be talking about that for years. For years. Oh man, Lesnar's a machine. He got onto the top rope and did that. It's so close yet so far. I don't know. Do I do anything differently? Just hit the damn thing, or come up with something else. Maybe just a generic moonsault. I don't know. The shooting star press is beautiful when it's done right, but it's not one that too close to failure for someone like that. Even if you practice it many times, maybe do a moonsault instead or something. If you're not really used to being there, him on the top rope at all is iconic. So you didn't need to go that far.
Yeah, definitely. As I say, there's only one more match that I've got on this, and if anyone else has any ideas of their sort of worst WrestleMania matches or moments. So this one, as I say, it's The Undertaker versus the Giant Gonzalez, WrestleMania 9.
I didn't watch that match, so I'm clueless.
See, that was at the start of Taker's WrestleMania legacy, if you will. It was
it was.
Not a sport. The second or fourth Mania. Probably a sports Mania, actually. Was it his first? That was a second. I think Jake the Snake was a sportsman.
Yeah.
Jake the Snake or Jimmy Snuka was a sportsman at Mania.
Yeah, I think it was Jake, and then I think this was the second one, and then this continued the kind of whole streak kind of going on.
I think.
Well, what's the most memorable thing about that match? What does everyone remember?
The bodysuit.
He tombstone the joint, or he choked down the joint. Wasn't that what I've been talking about?
Jamie's got it. The bodysuit.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you change about that match just to make it a little less?
I'd give Johnny Gonzalez.
He won't be a disqualification or something.
I'd give Johnny Gonzalez a different fucking attire.
Yeah, come on. That's the first thing we do. Give him something that doesn't mean this is a laughing stock. Like,
I would also.
Ridiculous.
I'm being tasked at fixing it. I wouldn't have putting Johnny Gonzalez in the match.
Yeah.
No.
I'd have put someone else in there because that roster was plentiful back then. You're talking about a roster that still included Macho Man Randy fucking Savage. A roster that included fucking Kamala. It still included the Sarge at that time. Hacksaw. There's so many avenues you could have went down with Taker at that one.
Yeah.
I think Papa Shango was still around then. You could have had Taker against Papa Shango. Think of the mystique behind that match. The Voodoo Master against the Master of the Dark Arts, or wherever they were, the Dark Side, wherever they were pushing the match back then.
I think that's a match.
Can I go for one more? Just I kind of because I actually discovered it recently from playing the WWE 2K24 game, and I love this legend because I think if you ask me with the golden generation with the with the fucking way they did this match. One of my most hated matches, I'd probably say, in WrestleMania history was the Mega Powers Explode with Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. Because I don't remember in that match Macho Man being strong at all. Like, he never caused a threat. Like, you look at what he did with Ultimate Warrior, and Ultimate Warrior being the one to beat Hulk Hogan. And it was a great moment. He won the 2 belts, and it was iconic. But the whole build for the Mega Powers exploding was another iconic build, and how it was this Miss Elizabeth and stuff like that. But when I remember watching it again, I'm like, I don't remember like Macho Man being a threat to Hulk. Like, I know Hulk Hogan won every year, but Macho Man was literally the WWE champion, and then it was like, all right, Hulk Hogan won. That was it. It was literally the best build, but the worst outcome. Like, I didn't mind Hulk Hogan winning, but Macho Man didn't like. It's like he didn't have a chance before that bell rung.
So we have a term we use for Trend 7, and we say what? We say Babs gets what Babs wants. Well, back then, Hulk Hogan was Trend 7. He was Babs, and Babs got what Babs wanted. If Babs wanted Miss Elizabeth to manage him and fuck up Macho Man's whole character, Babs got it. Babs wanted to walk out randomly in red trunks and beat Yokozuna for the title after Yokozuna won it and piss off all of the Anoa'i family. Hulk Hogan got it. It's just the power that he held back then.
Yeah, it's like, and I looked at Macho Man, and it was a great moment he won at WrestleMania. Is it 5? Am I correct saying he won at WrestleMania 5 against Ted DiBiase? And it was a great moment, and he had the belt for a whole year. And it's like that could have easily been a way better match than what he booked it with, like literally. And I looked at it, and I was like, Hulk Hogan's gonna destroy him here, and he literally destroyed him. And I'm like, what the fuck? Macho Man Randy Savage, who was one of the best performers in the world at the time, gets destroyed. I hate it.
We can all agree that Macho Man is going to go down as one of the best ever.
Yeah.
But what is Macho Man's most memorable moment? Can anybody tell me that? The most talked about Macho Man moment, what is it?
Bonesaw.
When he retired.
Bonesaw. Spider-Man 1.
So Mark's answer is none of
I got you for 3 minutes.
Jamie, what did you say?
Fucking Bonesaw, yes.
What did you say, Jamie?
I said when he retired and the hug with Miss Elizabeth, where everyone cried.
That's exactly the moment he's remembered for. The reuniting of Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man Randy Savage. Not the multiple world titles he won. Not the King of the Ring crown he won. Not the IC titles he won. Not the Hogans he wrestled. For making fans fight for reuniting Miss Elizabeth. It's the most talked about Macho Man moment of all time.
Yeah, definitely in WrestleMania as well.
He got bit by Jake Snake.
Oh, when Jake the Snake invaded the wedding.
Yeah, and the Snake just...
Yeah, this is when he got married. Yeah, I remember that actually.
I still think that the most talked about is probably Bonesaw. Genuinely. Because more people would have seen
you
that.
probably are right. I just hated how like
You're going
he wasn't
nowhere.
appreciated when he had that match.
I got you for 3 whole minutes, and you going nowhere.
Yeah, but I think that's definitely a match they should have just booked way better. Don't mind Hulk Hogan winning. They should have just had a clinic, and they fucking never did. It was Hulk Hogan just
Ultimate Warrior winning the 2 straps off Hogan was great for wrestling, but they had to do it because Hogan was touching his late 40s at that stage in his career. So they had to move on to the next big thing. They had to mold the next big character.
That was like the year after Macho Man, and it's like I think it might have been, was it?
And Macho Man probably should have beat Hogan as well. Hogan is the reason a lot of characters got destroyed. Yeah. They just would not stay down. Should Hogan have beaten Andre the Giant in that silver? No, absolutely not. Andre the Giant should have retired undefeated because that was his character.
And here's the thing, though,
Vince didn't want that.
And here's
Vince didn't want Andre to leave and lose somewhere else. He wanted to be known for Andre's first loss.
Yeah, but you even think about the 1990 Royal Rumble, I think, when Ric Flair won the WWE title. And if you can imagine if Macho Man got put over instead of Hulk Hogan that year, and how big he was already. He could have been definitely like the biggest when Hulk wouldn't have been around. And that match with him and Rick could have easily main evented that year's Mania. But they thought it was a brilliant idea to have Sid Vicious against Hulk Hogan in a non-title match at that year's Mania. And it's like, imagine if they had Macho Man got put over that year. It could have easily been Macho Man and Ric Flair.
Macho Man should have been the next thing after Hogan, but Hogan couldn't go away. He couldn't. He
No.
was a spotlight junkie.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he was a spotlight junkie. But then you look at Ultimate Warrior, and I'd be out straight. I wasn't really like when I look at Warrior and he got into the Hall of Fame. I'm like, right, I don't think he's really someone I'd see as one of the best wrestlers. Yeah, he won the WWE title, but he did nothing afterwards. With Macho Man, they could have done so many things with Macho Man.
Back then, when you had your Macho Man, your Sheiks, your Warriors, it wasn't the wrestling you remember them for, it was the character they built.
Yeah. I just remember my Macho Man.
We all remember Macho Man. Who's after giving this a like?
What?
I seen a thumbs up pop up on the screen.
Oh, I don't know why. I don't know. This just pops up, but I don't know.
Oh, it's an automatic thing, isn't it? Oh, maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah. It's like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like give a like to the FiveMarks podcast and the Weekly Controversies.
We are the Weekly Controversies podcast as part of the FiveMarks network. We are
yeah, give us a like, everyone. Give us a like.
Have you anything else for us, Rob, or have we reached the end of the list?
We have pretty much reached the conclusion of this WrestleMania worst matches and things like that this week. So if there's anything else, guys, you want to chat about?
I have one more thing before Rob brings. I know Rob started us before Jamie brings us home, and I feel we have to touch on this about booking things and trying to make them better. So I hope you're sitting down, and I hope your seatbelts are on and you're in the safety position, because I'm bringing us to WrestleMania 24. I am bringing us to midway through WrestleMania 24. It is, of course, the most cringeworthy match in WrestleMania history. It is, of course, the $1 billion man, Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show. What the fuck was the thinking behind having a 4-foot nothing Floyd Mayweather against a man that would look at him as an appetizer in the Big Show?
I actually, controversial take, I love that match.
No, I didn't hate the match. I just think there's so many things they could have done differently. They could have made it so much more enjoyable. It was just for what it was. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have put
Like,
money on it.
I'm sure if you play the match and watch it, you can see a lot of people going for a piss.
Yeah. I secretly loved it because it was just a build up and stuff, and then the commentators even made it too. It was like, oh, he's run away from him and everything like that, and yeah, the ending with the brass knuckles and stuff, and then he actually knocks him out. And then what's crazy enough is that started then the new finisher Big Show had. It was the knockout punch, which is crazy enough.
Right
Actually,
hand,
what
weapon of
started
mass
that new
destruction.
finisher he got was the knockout punch. So kind of funny how that match was the outcome of a new finisher for Big Show.
Yeah, the WMD.
That's just a WrestleMania moment to again, make it mainstream. How can we put Floyd Mayweather as someone huge on the card, and how can we make it seem quite exciting? It had to be more like a fantasy thing with Big Show, to be fair, because if he was up against, anyone else, who else do you really put him up against? It looks too realistic, and it almost becomes intriguing that it's the Big Show. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I think it's fine. It's just one of the things that's annoying about WrestleMania is that they bring huge stars in sometimes just for the sake of sales and pay-per-views.
Right.
And that was it.
So answer me this then. You're sitting in gorilla position and you make the call for this 4-foot nothing Floyd Mayweather to beat Big Show 1, 2, 3. Make that make sense.
Brass knuckles, bang. That's what makes sense.
Brass knuckles me bollocks.
It doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to make money, and it definitely did.
Shut up, Mark. Pause and make money.
That could be your new catchphrase.
I don't know. I'm not solid bringing it on as a host just yet.
Yeah.
But rounding it right back, before we completely go off topic. Seeing as
Yeah.
I don't share my opinion on that match because they're all
But-
mark boys for Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Rob,
but-
back to you in the studio.
As I say, my opinion on that match, as I say, I mean, if I'm honest, it wasn't for me. But if you were giving me that match, I would, to make things interesting, I would have actually had money on the match. So if you put Big Show up against, Floyd Mayweather, you say like, okay, Big Show comes on and says like, if you win this match, I'm putting $500,000 right in front of you here if you beat me. Floyd Mayweather does the same. There's $1 million on the table. Winner takes all. Winner takes it. Now that would have made it more of an interesting match. Even if Floyd Mayweather had won it, probably would have been his money anyway.
Can I just say, right, to end this segment of the match, Floyd Mayweather has a 100% record at WrestleMania and has a better undefeated streak than The Undertaker ever did. So, here's your lads.
And
Well,
that's what
folks,
makes
I
it
hope you
money.
enjoyed Jamie as we co-host because it'll be his last week on the podcast because he decided to be too controversial.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, sure. Since I'm actually going to be doing the outro, I'm going to let everyone know that next week we are actually going to be doing the WrestleMania predictions for the 2 nights of Mania. We haven't really gotten the order yet. We're just going to say what matches
We're
are being
hoping to
announced
get
and-
in match order. However, we have unilaterally agreed that it's going to be a 2-parter episode. Part 1
Yeah.
for night 1 and part 2 for night 2 because we just can't fit 4-day matches into an hour
Yeah.
and a half or an hour and 40-minute podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, we'll do a 2-parter on that, as what Tony said. And then we're definitely going to get it in order of the nights, and hopefully WWE can announce them soon enough because there's only been, I think, 3 matches announced for the 2 separate nights. So hopefully we'll get a lot more in the next coming days and stuff. But we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thanks, Mark, again for coming on to the Weekly Controversies. Second week in a row, actually.
Yeah, we'll make it 3 as well. If
Yeah.
you'll have me
He's
back.
had more episodes now
Oh
than the
yeah,
original
yeah. There's
host.
definitely more episodes to be coming, especially coming up to WrestleMania, which everyone's gonna be excited for. So yeah, definitely you. And then we're gonna get the return of Aaron as well, which we're looking forward to seeing him back.
Yay.
Hooray, the baby face of the
actually-
2.
I've seen you mention his name. I do believe that Aaron is starting his own podcast.
Yeah,
And he has
actually,
got
you wanna
social
get that
for it.
plug, Mark?
Indeed, yeah. I know Aaron is starting his own podcast as well, so I'm sure he would be delighted if we gave him a plug. He's got a sort of well, it's Real People, Real Stories. It's the Mindful Patter podcast. So Aaron is really looking at sort of a mental health with a bit of banter in there as well. And you can follow him on Instagram. It's mindful.patter, same as well as Twitter. And yeah, he's kickstarting his. You're going to be hearing us on this will be Friday. His first episode will have been out on the Wednesday, so look out for that as well, guys.
Can you still
can't
see
wait to
me?
listen to it.
Still got you.
I'm not gone dark.
No,
No,
you're
you're
not
still
done.
good.
not yet.
Screen has gone off and I'm quite worried.
Yeah. But no, honestly, everyone do check that out. We're gonna try and see if Mark can do a link on the description, and hopefully he does actually get the podcast out there because it's doing these lads a favor. Because mental health, as we've touched on before, and the Iron Claw review is a really, really important thing, and not just professional wrestling, but in the world. So yeah, we're just going to leave it at that. But thank you for watching this episode of Weekly Controversies. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify for all your podcasts, on the FiveMarks YouTube channel, and also on Instagram and TikTok. So I've been Tony. I'm definitely Tony. I'm fucking on this intro again. I'm Tony. That's me, Mark, and that's me, Rob. Hope you've had, and I'm Tony for this outro. Yeah, I am Tony. Yeah, I'm not fucking Tony. I am Tony, and this is
Sorry, Muggy.
Weekly Controversies. Signing off.